Do I need to move that up? There we go. I hear me now. That's not good. Beth and Mike. Okay. Do I just start, I guess? Okay, yes. Who will buy this wonderful feeling? I figured if I started singing, people, what? Oh no. Please stop. No, I've had this allergy thing, and oh goodness, everybody is nodding, so it makes you miserable. Makes you miserable. This is not the last session. We're going to meet this evening at 6. Thank you, darling. We're going to meet this evening at 6, and I've got some 3x5 cards. I've asked Ryan to help me pass them out. Go ahead, don't sit down yet. There you go. And there are some more in a basket in the back. And if you have a question as we're going through, you don't sign these. They're anonymous question cards. Okay, so there are some things, I need to stand right here, don't I? There we go. I promise that I will honestly answer every question that you put on these cards. Ooh. But I reserve the right to say, none of your business. So that's an honest answer. And it's something I'm really good at saying, it's, I don't know. Can I get back to you? Because I don't claim to know everything. Fact, some time ago, I had a client. I work with adult outpatient now, adult outpatient mental health. And I got this client, a middle-aged man. He works at a grocery store, really nice guy, really intelligent. But he had kind of gone a little delusional. I don't know, we don't ever know why, but he had gotten off track and he had decided that he was God. Yeah. Now he held a job at a grocery store, but he was God. And I said, how do you know you're God? And he said, well, I've got an answer for every question. Just ask me. I said, look, an answer for a question is not the answer necessarily. What's 2 + 2? Butterflies. That doesn't count. But he thought he was God. In fact, the reason he came to see me as a counselor was because he was trying to convince one of his fellow employees, a female, that he was God. And he said, well, I can prove it to you. She said, how? He said, I can tell you what color your underwear is. She took offense, talked to the manager, and he was in danger of getting fired. Medications and therapy has helped, and he just decided he's not God. Probably more than medication in this case. It's a fascinating thing, the variety of people you meet. I tell folks I did law enforcement for 10 years. It was a lot of fun because every hour is different. You don't know what's coming over the radio next. You just don't. And that's when you're young and healthy and have a flat belly and dark hair, that's really exciting. When you're old and don't, then it's nice to have your differences show up different. So every hour is different, what I do now. I see adults. This is the last official class, and we're going to talk about what's called reflective listening, and I'll explain that here in a moment. If you have a question, write them down. There's a basket in the back. We'll check that after, and then this evening we'll discuss those questions. Thank you for coming. I appreciate y'all being here. Usually, when we start talking to somebody, we call it communicating. And very, very often I have people come into my office, couples particularly, or dyads, and a dyad is any two people, mother and son, father and daughter, mother and daughter, and I say, so, okay, what's going on? How can I help? Because I'm here to help. What can I do? And they say, well, we're not communicating. And what they don't realize is that very few people do. I mentioned a moment ago, I don't have my cell phone on me, but I mentioned a moment ago, one of the poorest excuses for communicating that I can find is texting. You get in more trouble by texting. And I say a nudge. From up here, I saw that nudge. So communication is very, very important and very, very difficult. And so what usually happens, and this is when things are calm, okay? When things are calm, and I'm going to use, if you don't mind, we'll use me and you. I'll ask. Too many examples come to mind. I have to be careful. Oh, goodness. I'm hard of hearing. Magnum handguns when I was in college without earplugs, oh, I thought it was cool. No, it's not. No, it's not. This one's particularly bad. This one's a little bit better. And if Diana is facing me and I can see her lips, I can catch the consonants. That's why you think I'm a good listener. When you come up and say, hi, my name's Mike, I go, really? And I am looking at your lips because I got to catch the consonants. But I can't look at her face all the time. And she'll be sitting or standing at the kitchen counter doing something, and she'll say, what's God? You didn't get it either, did you? When I say, excuse me, what? Pardon me? Because I'm an interested husband. I want to reinforce what she's doing and tell her she's loved and show her that I'm listening to her and that we're communicating. And I say, what? Excuse me? Pardon? And she says, I said, what? We're communicating. And I said, and so I think I stole it from Dobson. Somebody. I was reading a book, an older couple, and they were talking about communicating. And so the husband was hard of hearing, and he said, when he doesn't understand it, he says, I love you too. Brothers and sisters, that works. That works. Because how are you going to argue with somebody when they say, I love you too, and you know they didn't hear you, because that's not the appropriate response. But those of you who are hard of hearing, it saves you a lot of grief. I love you too. Okay, so that's a place to start. That was the first example that comes to mind when I look at my wife about communicating. Okay, but the other is, very often we will be talking, and it can be about the grass growing. Okay, it doesn't have to be anything serious. And I'll say, the grass is green today, and she's going to start thinking about her response. It's been getting tall, it's been raining a lot, weather's been warm, mower needs gas, and she's starting to think about all the things about grass, and she is completely no longer listening to me or hearing me. Maybe the first one was more accurate. She's hearing but not listening because she's preparing her response. And I'll say, yeah, and wasn't it just so nice to see the daisies come up? I just like to see the flowers. And she says, we need to mow. Darling, no, I'm talking about how pretty a day it is, and maybe we should talk about going out for a picnic. She said, yeah, and we need gas for the mower. Now, we're listening, but we're not. When you're discussing something, let's say it moves up to the we're discussing with a capital D, it's important. And we want to make sure that that person understands where I'm coming from. And I start saying my piece, I can get maybe a sentence or two. And by the way, I can use me as an example. I don't mind because I know I am Mr. Normal sitting up here, and you do exactly the same thing I'm describing. Okay? I'll start saying my piece, whatever it might be, and she starts thinking about her response. She might hear the first sentence and maybe two. But if I go much longer than that, she got to get gas for the lawnmower. And that's not, I'm not judging my wife. Don't get mad at me. Don't get upset. Don't say, I said, but that's what people do. And then she'll start her side of the conversation, and I'll hear the first sentence or two, and I'm gone. Because I'm thinking about, I want to go on a picnic. So what I'm going to talk about today is called, it's actually a technique. It's the way that we really do show the other person that we're listening. I hear what you said. And I know this applies to parenting. I worked for several years at a children's home. And it was the kind of home where people send their kids that they can't get along with. And the troubled children. And there were lots and lots of escalations because these children had learned to escalate. Nobody listens to me unless I blow my top. And so the house mother would get somebody stirred up real good. And then they'd call and say, you need to come down here and fix this kid. Because I was the counselor on staff. It's kind of like my field training officer I mentioned earlier, Wayne Turman. He was big. To me, I'm 5'6", and back then I was weighed a lot less. And he was your size. Wayne was big. And to train me, he would walk up to a drunk and start poking him on the chest. He'd say, that little cop over there says he can whoop you. And then he'd back up and I'd get to handcuff the guy. So we got to communicate, okay? There is a technique for slowing it down and making sure. Oh, I was mentioning about, I don't have notes now, so you're just catching it on the fly. When I was working at children's homes, they'd call me and I'd say, come down here and fix this. And I'd get there, and I was still a little guy then, Once you're 5, 6.5 inches tall, and when you're 5, 6.5, the half's important, okay? When you're 5, 6.5 inches tall, most of the teenage boys are bigger than you are. I'm not going to wrestle them to the ground. And what I would do, I'd get to the house, they were cottages, big houses, and I would sit down, and this kid would be ranting and raving and cussing and calling names and stomping around the room. And he's expecting me to wrestle with him because that's what staff does, right? And I would sit down and I would say, this exactly the way I'm saying it to you right now. I wouldn't raise my voice. I'd say, I'm right here to listen to you when you're ready to talk. And then I'd shut up. I don't mind if he's ranting and raving. I don't mind if he stands right here and calls me dirty names. I just don't care. I'm going to go home when this shift is over, and your 16-year-old tantrum is not going to ruin my day. So I would sit there, and when he'd take a breath, a few minutes later, I'd give him a chance to rant for a little while. And when he'd take a breath, I'd say, I'm still here. I'm ready to listen to you when you're ready to talk. Much like we did, I recognize that game I'm not going to play. I believe it. If we don't engage, if we do not emotionally engage, people will have to stop and listen and figure out, okay, well, I want him to engage. How do I do that? And they'll come down, okay? Now, I realize there are exceptions, and we're not going to go into the exceptions right now about abusive physical relationships and such. They don't always work exactly the way I'm talking. But I'm intentionally avoiding those right now. But the norm is people want to engage. They want to be heard. And I would sit there, and there's one young man that I'm thinking of in particular. He stomped and he finally turned on me and said, aren't you going to yell back at me? No. Oh. And that was his response. Oh. What can he do now? He's already tried the yelling and screaming, and it didn't work. He's tried calling me names, and that didn't work. Dude, he didn't even get creative. I've been called some pretty interesting names, but he didn't even get creative. And finally, when he sat down, I said, now then, what's been bugging you? And his first thing he said, he pointed to the house mother who was over in a corner of the kitchen, and he said, she won't listen to me. I said, she's been doing that for the past 45 minutes. She can't hear anything else. But she doesn't listen to me. And that's where we're going today. I want to show you, especially when you're getting upset, or feeling upset, or thinking that the other person has made you so mad. Because, by the way, it doesn't work that way. Nobody makes you mad. That's another talk entirely. But I want to show you how to actually know that you've been heard. Okay? Now, you guys have heard me coughing into a hanky all morning. That hanky is in my pocket. Okay? This one is clean. It's been in my computer bag. I usually use a foam ball for what I'm going to demonstrate here in the next moment or two, but I left the foam balls at Barry's house, and so this was in my bag and it'll do. I also used to use Play-Doh for the demonstration we're going to do, but I found out that Play-Doh hurts when people throw it at each other. So I went to something soft. Diana keeps me in stock in my desk drawer at work. I've got those little stress balls, the little goofy. I keep 5 or 6 of those and give them away, Not all of them at once, but then there'd be a riot, wouldn't there? But something soft, okay? And I mentioned about, okay, that, okay. So what I'd like to do, I'm gonna go through the technique of reflective listening. This is a large part of what I do, by the way, even as a therapist. People want to be heard. 75% of the people, 75% of people who go to a therapist, who seek help. No, let me rephrase it a different way. 75% of the people who are feeling bad, who talk to someone, that's the way I want to say it, get better. And it doesn't matter. There's a group down in St. Louis, Missouri, that did a massive mega study of all the different kinds of therapy, 140 some odd different kinds of therapy, psychotherapy, which has been largely debunked, psychiatrists who just give pills, they don't do therapy at all, doctors who give placebo. You pick it all, okay? Combine it all together. Actually, they're all about equally effective. Go figure. Just a flat line right across the board. Play therapy, stress therapy, you name it. All of it's about equally effective. The thing that makes a difference is 75% of the people who feel bad, if they talk to somebody, will feel better. Doesn't matter what kind of therapist. Doesn't matter if it's your neighbor across the fence. Now, sometimes the risk of talking to a neighbor across the fence is that they'll talk to the other neighbor on the other side of the fence, and then you got another kind of problem, okay? So I wouldn't recommend, you got to find somebody you trust, okay? Danny would be a good start, I'm assuming, you know. But codes of ethics, well, I just met you a couple of days ago. And but therapists have, there's an advantage in the codes of ethics protect you, okay? If I'm seeing a husband and his wife calls me, I say, who? I don't even acknowledge that I'm seeing somebody. It's that confidential. In fact, my particular licensed professional counselor is, and MFT, I've got both, so it doesn't sound like I'm lying. I have the same restrictions on who I can tell as a doctor or a lawyer. So I'm really, if you told me you killed grandma last night, I can't tell. Nobody here. Okay. Don't tell me if you killed grandma last night. Because I'd spend the next 2 hours trying to convince you it's in your best interest to confess to a police officer. Okay, so we're going to go back to reflective listening. Usually we don't listen because we're thinking of what we want to say. What I'm going to suggest is that two people, and by the way, this is not something you do all the time. Okay? This is when it's important to sit down and be understood. When Diana says, Charlie, we need to talk, I know that this is one of those moments, the bottom falls out of my stomach, and I think, oh man, what have I done? Because that's really when it's serious, when she says we need to talk. Oh man. But I know, okay, I know when she says that we have agreed to some ground rules. What she's going to say in the next few minutes is not meant to hurt me. It's not meant to upset me. It's meant because there's a problem when we need to get it fixed. And it could be, I've got a flat tire on the truck and I don't want to fix it yet. That's your turn. She does change tires herself. We'll figure. And but it could be something, you know, it's not necessarily bad news, but my assumption is, oh, I'm in trouble. So we sit down at the kitchen table. We turn off the television, turn off the radio. We ignore the phones. The kids are no longer in the room. I put the dog outside and we talk. Now, we don't use the hanky anymore. We've practiced enough. We don't really need to do that. But the first person, here's the rules. The first person, in this case, who holds the hanky, gets to talk. And they'll say their piece. It's important that their piece not be war and peace, okay? Which is a lot of talking. It's important that their piece be small enough that the receiver, in this case Charlie, hears what they say, and then in just a moment, when she hands him the hanky, he's able to say back to her what she said. Okay? Reflective listening. You're reflecting back what that original person said. Now, does this mean you agree with them? No, but it does show that you heard them. It does show that you're interested. It shows that you're listening. And then they say what they're going to say. They say what she said. Then she passes the hanky back. It says, all right, it'll stay there for a while. And I found that once you drop something, they don't move. It'll be there in a minute. So I hand the hanky back to Diana, and she has a chance to correct what I understood. It's possible I misunderstood. We'll just chalk it up to hard of hearing. She calls it selective hearing. I don't know why, but we'll chalk it up to I just misunderstood, okay? And she'll say, no, that's not what I meant. Here's what I meant. And she'll either repeat it, preferably rephrase it, reframe it, say it a different way, whatever. She'll hand the hanky back to me, and I'll say, oh, this is what you meant. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 5. No, 1, 2, 3. Oh, 1, 2, 3. I get it. And so it's not communication, brothers and sisters, until it makes a full circle, okay? She speaking to me is not communication. She speaking to me, I reflecting back and making sure I understood it, and she confirming that I understood the message, then it's communication. Once we've completed that cycle, I know, because we've already established the rules and we know what reflective listening is, that I'm going to get a chance to offer my response. She said 1, 2, 3, I said 1, 2, 3, she confirmed it. Now I can say ABC. She can say ABD. See, I assume she messes up sometimes too. ABD? No, 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 ABC. Oh, okay, ABC, yes. And we continue this until we worked out a solution. You know, it's fascinating to me. Very, very often in my office, I have couples come in and they say, we've been having knockdown drag-outs. It's all but just, he pushed me and I grabbed him by the ear and we dragged each other off. And they describe these big old fights they've been having. And I say, tell me about the last one. What was it about? Usually they don't know. I find that fascinating. If she's beating me up, I want to know why. But they don't remember. They have so many. That's the point. The only way they communicate is escalation. And that's not communicating. I mentioned about suicidal thoughts and stuff. If somebody has to try that hard for attention, give it to them. If you really get now I'm going to go back to dating, talking about kids. I told my own kids as they were dating, date as many people as you can. And those that you don't like being around, that you get tired of, don't date them anymore. That's what dating's for. Figure out who you're compatible with. Okay, back to reflective listening. So she said her piece. I said it back to her. I understood. She confirmed it. I got a chance to say my piece, and then we go on until we find a solution to our problem. I was going to say about fighting couples in the office. They'll come in and they'll tell me about all these big knockdown, drag-out fights. And I ask them what, and they say, I don't know. And then I say, well, let's figure out what a fight was about. What is something you consistently... Usually by this time I'm known well enough, and if they don't come up with something, I'll say, oh, okay, so it's about your blended family, and you've got kids that live there, and he doesn't like them coming over for the weekend. It doesn't take long to find something that'll set them on fire. It doesn't, you know. And usually they would have gone off and escalated and screamed and hollered and fought with each other about that. But they've got a referee, and I've just been talking about reflective listening, okay? And so then we pick that hot topic and we discuss it. I say we because for a little while they've invited me to be coach. And I teach them about reflective listening. I have the little soft squishy balls. I turn two chairs to face each other and I ask if they would sit in the two chairs and practice what we've just been talking about. Okay. And then I coach. I'm hard on songbooks. Okay. Wes, do those show up? Is that okay? Oh, you're not Wes. Okay, well, I've actually asked a couple that I just met that I don't know anything about, except that he's an electrician and they have 3 sons. Actually, I found out a lot, didn't I? Okay, and it's Mike and Beth. Okay, thank you. And so I'm going to ask Mike and Beth to come up here and have a seat in these 2 chairs. They said they'd volunteer. Well, Mike did. Beth didn't say you'd volunteer yet. Yeah. Now that's fascinating. I put those 2 chairs close together on purpose, and she moved them apart. But we're not going to get into that. No, I said we're not going to get into that. Yeah. Although it is funny about personal space, isn't it? And I'm not picking on you, Beth. It is. Back when I was doing interrogations, I would sit about this close. You know why? Because it stresses them out. Because you're inside their personal space. So depending on the topic of conversation, if you guys are discussing breakfast this morning, for instance, I'm assuming that was not a hot topic, correct? Okay. Then sitting really close like this to start with is good. Am I messing something up? Oh, I see what you're doing. Ooh, this is going to get better. There we go. Do both of those work?
Not at the same time.
Oh, not at the same time. Okay. Okay, so they don't know. I mean, they're as nervous as I am right now. So they don't know what we're going to do other than what I've just explained to you. So now this is clean, okay? In fact, I've been doing this on purpose. I'm checking, but anyway, there you go. Okay, so Mike has the floor. Beth knows this because we've established the ground rules. He's going to get a chance to speak. And I'm going to give him a topic here in a minute. You don't have to think of something. This is a relief. Yes. So I'm going to give him a topic in a minute. Beth's going to listen, and we're going to go through the procedure, okay? I now am going from the position of teacher to coach because they've invited me in, and we're just going to work our way through this, okay? So Mike, if you would tell Beth Did you guys have breakfast this morning?
Yes.
Okay. Tell Beth what you had for breakfast. She knows, I hope. But
Morning for breakfast, I had an everything bagel with cream cheese on it.
okay. Anything else you want to tell her?
It was toasted.
Okay. So give Beth the hanky. There you go. What did he say, Beth?
So you said, I think you said that you had an everything bagel with cream cheese and it was toasted.
Hand him back the hanky. Did she get it?
Yes, that is correct.
Oh, good, because I misunderstood you. Okay, and see, that was easy, wasn't it? Okay, now hand Beth a hanky. And Beth, if you would talk to Mike about your breakfast.
I didn't really have breakfast.
Yes, you did.
I had 2 strawberry fizz waters for breakfast.
Breakfast of champions. Okay, is that anything else you want to add?
Had it while I was reading.
Okay,
You had 2 strawberry fizz waters for breakfast while you were reading?
okay, hand her the hanky. Did he understand?
Yeah.
Okay, see, that was easy. It's just, all I'm doing is slowing things down, making sure that the person who's speaking knows he's been heard, and the person who's listening is able to say, yes, I got it, I understand, this makes sense to me. And then you'll switch places, and the person who was listening is now the speaker, and the one who's speaking is now listening. Okay. What I'm fixing to say, I understand, I don't know this couple at all, other than Mike and Beth, and they've got 3 sons, and he's an electrician. Oh, then you guys have been here a long time. You told me that. Okay. So I'm trying to find a topic that's going to take it's a little bit more intense than, and I'm trying not to find something that's going to blow them up.
Can we throw it at each other? No.
Yeah. Actually, Beth, when I was way a long time ago, I was teaching this to a couple, and oh, they fought bitterly. I mean, physical. It was bad. They actually go into fights, not just arguments. And they came back the next week and they said, oh, Mr. Charlie, we did the Play-Doh thing. I said, oh, good. How'd they go? They said, well, we lost the Play-Doh. Before they started arguing, they had lost the Play-Doh. She said, but I was holding the baby. And so I said my piece and I handed him the baby. And he said it back to me and he handed me the baby. And I said, yes, you got it. And I handed him the baby and he said his piece. She said, we went at it for 45 minutes. After that, the baby was so confused and we were exhausted. So the technique does work. Beth, at some point in the past, you met Mike for the first time. What did you think? I hope you made a good impression.
Well, first of all, we were very young when we met. So we were in 7th grade, and I thought he was very weird, and he also was a little bit over flirty.
Sorry, Mike. Okay, so pass him the hanky. What did she say? Give me that.
She said that I was weird and over flirty.
Oh, now then, understand I'm coaching right now. You're not in trouble. I'm just making a point, and we're trying to do it on a silly level, okay?
Yeah.
Did he get what she said? Not all of it. He missed a part. 7th grade, yeah. Now that's not a big deal right now with what we're doing, but I'm using it as a coaching technique. So did he get everything you said?
Most of it, except for the 7th grade part.
Did he understand you?
Yeah.
Okay, you realize there's still a discussion to come that's not going to be in public about being weird and flirty. Okay.
I've told him before. He already knows.
Okay.
Now
But-
everybody else does too.
Okay, good. Okay, so you met in the 7th grade, weird and flirty, and did he understand you?
Mhm.
And he got what you were saying. Okay, now hand him the, yeah, you know what I'm thinking. So the first time you met Beth, tell Beth. Actually, she's the one you're communicating to, not us. Tell Beth about the first time you met her.
She was great, and perfect.
Ooh.
And I knew that was the one. Knew you
Hand
were
her,
the one.
hand her the hanky. Wow, you got a lot of catching up to do. Okay, so what did Mike say?
So he said that he thought I was great and perfect and that I was the one.
Wow. Now then, I am certain, and that's a very sweet thing to say, you just scored points. Okay, so 5 positive affirmations a day, you're about 3 up, okay? So would you respond to that, Beth? Do you have would you say anything to, I was perfect in 7th grade, I still had freckles, what is this?
That's why I thought he was weird and flirty, because he thought I was perfect in the one in 7th grade.
Oh, okay. But you get the idea how this works, right? It's called reflective listening. And I'm not going to put you on more of the spot, but you've been a very good sport, both of you, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay. You can take a seat. There we go. That way it doesn't feedback or anything. I turned it off. Oh, you shut it all off? You want me to hold that? Testing, 1, 2. 4 years ago, our fathers brought forth in this continent a new nation. What? Am I? Okay. Anyway, that's called reflective listening. And the goal of the whole thing is to slow it down, get it so that you know you've been heard and that you can communicate. You don't have to escalate. It's amazing to me that I can sit with a couple that fights like cats and dogs. There are scars, blood on the floor. It's horrible. They can't communicate at all, and we can sit in my office, and I didn't do it to Mike and Beth on purpose. I intentionally went to kind of, and that was a cute story, 7th grade. I appreciate that. But I usually, we practice on breakfast. We get to talking about breakfast. Keep it short. Have to do some coaching. No. Don't go into what all the ingredients are in granola. Just keep it short. And then I intentionally ask them an emotionally charged question. Sometimes about their last argument, sometimes about what it was about or why they had this, if certainly they didn't resolve it because they're not accustomed to resolving things. But, and then I ask them an emotionally charged question and coach them through that and interrupt as I need to. The funny thing is, the blood pressure stays down, the pulse rate stays down, the voice level stays down, the tone stays down. Nobody gets an edge. They just work their way through that particular emotionally charged question. Sometimes I've asked, so why do you love her? Especially if there's been an adultery. And I know that's just, I know what I'm doing. I know I'm stepping on wounds. In that sense, I know what I'm doing. And she hadn't heard why he loves her in so long. It just blows her away. And he hasn't heard why she loves him in so long. And they hadn't even thought about loving each other because they've just been unfaithful to each other. And so even with emotionally charged questions like that, we can work our way through it. And then at the end of the hour, I'm able to say, and this is, I'm trying to think of an exception. I can't. Where they blew up in the session. Oh, yeah. Never mind. There was one exception. But 1 in 21 years isn't bad. He stormed out and slammed the door. But anyway. Most usually, even with the emotionally charged questions, I can turn around and say, now, you said that you can't work through a problem. You said that you argue all the time and that you can't communicate. And you just did. Because you're holding a hanky. And you've got a couple of basic rules. I'm going to stop everything else. Nothing else matters except what you and I are doing right now. By the way, to listen, yeah, I'm going to say, I'll figure out a way to make it work. When you're listening, oh, I had to fly. I don't have a pocket knife. You wondered why I was limping. I don't have a pocket knife. Anyway, this is not listening, okay? Wait a minute. I can't see the TV. Is not listening. Looking at your book. What? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, right. Is not listening. They actually had to teach us when I was in interrogation school. Listening means you are leaning forward towards the person who is speaking. You are making eye contact. By the way, making eye contact is emotionally uncomfortable for everybody. Make eye contact and listen. Don't fix it. Don't offer a solution. Husbands, I'm going to tell you, yeah, they don't necessarily need the solution. They need the chance to talk. I learned that the hard way. Dee and I had been married 7, 8 years, She came home from work, been a bad day. I know nobody in here has ever experienced anything like that. Husbands want to fix things. That's what husbands do, supposedly. And she unloaded on me about today. She just told me all about those gossipy women at work and the backstabbing and all this that goes on and how much frustrating it was. Nobody did any work but her, whatever, all the things that she said. And I'm making them up. I don't remember because I wasn't listening. And when she took a deep breath, I said, here's how you fix that. If you'll do this, this, or this, that problem will go away. I'm a guy. I thought we were done. Yeah, oh, it gets worse. Tuesday, she came in and she told me about her day at work. Now, I don't know how many of you are old enough to know what an LP is, long playing record. Occasionally, you would play a long playing record and it would get stuck and it would play the same thing over and over again. Tuesday it was stuck. Those backstabbing ladies at work, they gossip, they do this, they do that, and this other, it's a pain in the neck, and I can't get anything done. And I said, I misunderstood. I thought we talked about this yesterday. If you'll do this, this, and this, that problem will go away. You won't have to worry about it anymore. It's fixed. I'm a guy. It's fixed. I see several ladies doing this. Well, I was also a dense guy. It gets worse. Wednesday, she came home and she told me about these ladies at work, these backstabbing, gossiping ladies, and how hard it was. And that I've heard this record, CD. I've heard it. I said, Diana, we've talked about it. You're not listening to me. We've talked about it. If you'll do that, I tell you what, don't do this, this, and this. Quit. Just don't go back. You don't have to give 2 weeks' notice. You don't owe them nothing. They'll cut you a check. Quit. You can either get a new job. I'll get 2 jobs. We'll reduce our standard of living. Whatever it takes, just quit. Now I've fixed it, right? I haven't handed the hanky back to her yet, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so now we're up to Thursday. She comes home, puts the record on, sets the needle down so that it'll play the same thing. It says these backstabbing ladies. I said, all right, it's enough. I don't want to hear any more about it. I told you it gets worse. Because I offered you a solution and you weren't listening. So don't talk to me about it. And she didn't. She didn't talk to me for 3 days. She didn't say the toilet's overflowing. She didn't say pass the salt. She didn't say nothing for 3 days. And I don't know about you, but that's a long 3 days. It's cold. And so finally, I'm not wise, I'm not wonderful, I'm not the best husband, but I finally got it. So I said, let's talk. We sat down, turned off the radio, turned off the TV, got the kids out of the room, got rid of the dog, no papers, no books, no nothing, no distractions. I said, first off, I hurt you and I'm sorry because I wouldn't do that ever intentionally. She said, okay, I forgive you. Like that, she said it, by the way. I forgive you. That means it's conditional, but I accept that. It's best what I can get right at the moment. And so she said, okay, I forgive you. I said, and I thought you were talking to me because you wanted me to help solve the problem. And she said, well, no. Wish she'd said that up front, but I'm dense. I probably wouldn't have heard it anyway. And I said, so you needed to tell me about work to unload, to vent, to get it off your chest so you could get on with your day without worrying about all that stuff. She said, yes. Well, duh. I said, okay, so I tell you what, we'll make a deal. The first 15 minutes when we get together of an evening, I don't care what time it is, don't care what time we get home, but the first 15 minutes together are yours. Okay? We'll get rid of the kids, we'll turn off the TV, turn off the radio, no books, no newspapers, we'll talk about your day. You got 15 minutes. Now, I don't mean that in the sense that, okay, you're on the clock. 13 and a half, 14, and that's not the sense. Sometimes she takes 20. Sometimes she only takes 10. Sometimes she doesn't at all. Today was good. Today was hard. I mean, I worked all day. Okay, I think it's okay to schedule listening time. They did a survey finding out what families were most successful. I don't know what makes a successful family or what parameters they used, but they evaluated successful families. They found there were 2 things in common. All of these families had in common. They had 2 bathrooms. I guess depending on how many kids you got, that can really be important. They had 2 bathrooms. But I think the most important thing that they shared in common was they ate 5 meals, 5 evening meals together every week. Can't do 7 days. I mean, the society has gotten, anyway. They had 5 meals together, 5 hours of listening time. What was your day at school like? What happened here? What happened there? That was what those successful families had in common. Listening time, it's okay to schedule it. She doesn't resent it when I say we schedule it. Well, it's not spontaneous. It doesn't count. Bilgewater, the spontaneous stuff just barely happens. If I want her to know that she's listened to and heard, we make time to make it happen. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I've learned some of this stuff the hard way. But if she says we need to talk, or when she gets home from work, we sit down and talk. When the children are home, even now, we sit down at the table to talk. So, schedule listening time. Listening is important. Listening is the communication. And using this technique with a hanky, I'm sorry, there's stuff on there. Using a hanky if you have to, something soft. Play-Doh is hard, it leaves a bruise, so don't use Play-Doh, and don't drop the baby. Anyway, so if you have any questions, well, actually you can ask them now. I don't know, is there a time? Is there a... Now, okay, we're done. Thank you. Well, no, wait, before you get up, let's say a prayer before we dismiss, please. Father in heaven, you are an awesome, holy, beautiful God, and you're willing to call yourself our Father. I cannot even understand, let alone appreciate fully that blessing. You teach us how to love each other. You teach us how to heal when we make mistakes. And you offer us the perfect home, not just here together with each other, but the perfect home and the hope for forever being with you. Thank you for that. I ask, Father, that you touch the folks that we've talked to today, not with my words, but with your wisdom. Fill them up. Burn them up like the burning bush and use them as you would. Touch them and help them to be whole. Help them to help other people see what it's like to be a Christian and be forgiven and be loved and listened to. Then we can bless the earth. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Is it off?